Hello, Body Love Tribe. How are you this morning? Just getting my earbuds in and ready to go. And we will see who jumps on live. So it's 9:30 in the morning for me. So I'm having my second coffee, which is wonderful. It's a decaf. I'm being good. Hi, Lindsay. All right, cool. So let's get started and we'll see who else jumps on with us as we go. So the topic that we are talking about today is who are you without, I'm just going to move my tripod. Who are you without body love challenges? So this question is something that we don't talk about. And really, when we're looking at body image, body love, changing your mindset, changing how you see yourself, changing how you live your life, this is not one of those things that people talk about, but it's really important to me and it is part of my story. So before we really get into the nitty-gritty of this, some of you know me, some of you don't. So I just want to give you a bit of a background on who I am and how I came to be doing this work. So my name is Katie Allen. I'm a holistic health and life coach. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now, but I spent most of my life hating my body, like absolutely hating my body. So growing up, I was the fat kid, right? From the time, I was chubby from forever, from birth. And growing up, I always knew I was wrong. And I always knew I was different. And I was teased a lot as a little kid. I was bullied. And even though I learned really young how to deal with bullies, on the outside, on the inside, obviously, it still cut me up and it still really hurt me. And so from a really young age, I knew that somehow I was wrong. Like my body was wrong, something was wrong with me. And that's just the story that kind of formed a lot of the basis of who I was. And through my teens and my 20s, that little girl, that hurt, scared little girl who was being bullied, she stayed with me, right? So she, as I grew and I changed, that sad, hurt little girl, she stayed with me. And I began my own body love transformation in my late 20s. So all through my teens and my 20s, I went through years where I was like crying myself to sleep. I felt awful. I felt ashamed. I didn't want anybody to see me. And I was really missing out on life in a lot of ways because of that. And in my late 20s, I slowly but surely began making a shift. And it was, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. It was a tiny bit here and there. But I started changing. But even up until quite recently, like a few months ago, the sort of story of me labeling myself as like the fat girl was still part of my identity. And the whole thing about identity is that is formed like before you know what it is, right? Like our beliefs, our identity, our programming, kind of who we are on a base level, really is formed generally before the age of 5. So that's during the time that most of us don't have a lot of memories from that time. We don't have the capacity to deal with things as adults, of course. So when you're 2 years old and you're 3 years old, you're absorbing everything around you, everything that you see, everything that a parent or a sister or a friend or a family friend, grandmother, everything that they're saying about their bodies. As a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, we absorb it. And then that kind of becomes part of our story. So asking this question, who are you without body image challenges, is a really big deal because chances are, if you're anything like me, for much of your life, that's kind of been part of your identity, right? It's part of how you define who you are. So we really want to kind of dig into that a little bit, be able to take a step back from it, really look at it. So if it suits you, if you like, I encourage you to grab a little notebook or a journal or something. I have a few questions that I'm going to be asking that would be really great journaling prompts after. You can always, of course, come back and watch the video again and pick the questions out. But if you happen to have one nearby, I would recommend that you grab it just so that you can write it down as I'm going. So when your identity is so intertwined with your body image, it can be absolutely terrifying to think about changing that. Like absolutely terrifying. And it's not logical. Okay? So in my coaching program, we call this brain, there's different brains that people have, different brains, parts of our brain that work in different ways. And I've heard it referred to in other places as a reptilian brain. At my school, they call it the critter brain. But basically, essentially, this part of your brain is responsible for your survival. Okay, and what do you need to survive? You need food, you need water, you need shelter, you need community, right? You need to belong somewhere. We are a social species. And that's kind of it. That's what it's responsible for. It needs to keep you alive. And it doesn't care if you're happy. Okay, you don't need to be happy to survive. So when you're looking at changing something, all right, so having a crappy body image and whatever that means to you, okay, I know that it's kind of a very vague term, but this might just be like negative self-talk. This might be, like I did for many years, labeling yourself as the fat girl or, and it really depends on you, right? I mean, my challenge with my body was always my weight and my size, but I know other people have challenges with various things, autoimmune diseases, various levels of physical ability. So I'm talking about my examples, but of course, it changes depending on what your story is. So when we're looking at trying to change how we see ourselves, if you, like me, have always seen yourself as the fat girl, it's terrifying to not be the fat girl anymore. Okay, and again, it's not going to make sense to your adult brain, but to that critter brain, to that reptilian brain, it wants you to survive. And up until now, at this point in your life, you've survived. You're still here. You might not be happy, but everything that it's been dealing with up until this point, it knows that it can continue to deal with and it can continue to help you survive through. Okay, so it's almost the difference. I'm sure you've probably heard the term, going from surviving to thriving. That's kind of what we're talking about here. So the critter brain, the reptilian brain, is responsible for your survival. You can survive having a shitty body image. You can survive speaking negatively to yourself. Hell, you've been doing it for months, years, decades, if you're like me, right? You can survive that. But what we want to do is step away from just surviving the situation and actually getting you to the point where you are thriving and enjoying your life, right? So that's kind of the goal. That's really what we're talking about. So a big question, and if you do have a journal, write this one down. A big question, and I wrote it down too because I want to make sure I'm asking exactly what I mean. What will you lose that you value if you learned to love your body today? What would you lose that you value if you learned to love your body today? Now, this might seem like a strange question, and you might be saying, I wouldn't lose anything. There's nothing to lose. The fact is, if there was nothing to lose, you would have done it already. Okay, and a lot of this doesn't necessarily make sense to a lot of people, and many don't like this. It's a bit of a confronting idea. But I love the saying, you are winning the game you are playing. Okay, so it's the idea that there is no such thing as self-sabotage. You actually are always getting the result that you want. And it might not be what you want on the surface, but again, when we dig down underneath those layers, it is always what you want. So if it's terrifying to you to think of yourself as anything other than, the fat girl or whatever label you have, then the game that you're playing is keeping yourself safe. The game that you're playing is, I need to survive this. I know that I have a shitty body image and I know that I can survive that. Therefore, that's the game I'm playing. We don't want to change the game. We don't want to, up the ante and suddenly be talking about all different things and loving your body and changing how you see yourself and having a positive mindset, because that's unknown and we don't know if we can survive that. And that is scary to your body and that's scary to your mind. Okay? So what will you lose that you value if you learn to love your body today? If you really kind of look at that and dig into it, I can pretty much guarantee you'll find something. Now, it may be something like, I'll lose this story. I'll lose the story of I'm the person who, has a really crappy body image. I'll lose the story of I'm the one that always takes the photos and is not in the photos. You might lose, it might literally be part of your identity, right? And we're gonna get to that in a little bit, but it literally might be that you feel like you're losing part of your identity, and that is terrifying. It may be that you relate to your friends or certain family members because you all hate your bodies. Okay, women especially, I think men do this too, but not nearly as much. Women are renowned for, when we get together in groups, we want to belong, right? Everybody wants to belong. It's part of what we need. But when women get together, we tend to, if one person is picking on their body, we'll all do it. Or if one person is talking about their diet or how they had, bad food, or they had a piece of cake and they were so naughty, we all do it. Okay. And that's really, again, that goes back to like your basic need for survival. We all want to belong. So we all do that. But again, is it really serving you? But like, what will you lose? Will you lose that connection with certain people in your life? If suddenly you were like, actually, I think my body's pretty awesome, and I'm kind of happy in my skin, and I'm feeling really positive and really optimistic, and I feel like I could do anything that I want. Are you going to have people in your life that kind of turn around and go, who are you? I can't relate to you anymore. What are we going to talk about? And that's a very real, very, very real thing. Okay, so I just want to ask that question because I can pretty much guarantee you, like I said, that there is something that you feel like you will lose if you change your mindset, okay? And if you really want to do this, you can't change it and not address those fears. So that is a really big one. And another sort of question that I want to ask is, what are you missing out on in life by not addressing your shitty body image? So I talked about this last week or the week before a little bit, but I think it's really important to bring up underneath this topic because, who are you without body image challenges? So body image challenges are different for all of us, right? For some it may be that negative self-talk. Like I said, it could be just in your head. It could be exercising to the point of like hurting your body because you're trying to lose weight. It could be restricting food. It could be physical self-harm. It can be a lot of things. It could just be that you're depressed or you feel like you're missing out on life. And that's really where this question of what are you missing out on life, or what are you missing out on in life by having a really poor body image? So for example, myself, I can tell you that for years I held back from social situations because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to go out in public. So sometimes when my friends were getting together, I would just make up an excuse and just not go. And, I have a headache or I'm not feeling well or what have you, whatever that thing is. So my social life really suffered a lot. I know for others, there can be a huge problems with intimacy with partners, right? When you feel really shitty about your body, you don't necessarily want somebody else to see you naked or touch you. And for that matter, you might not even be touching yourself. No, sexually or not, but like it's really easy to become very disconnected from your body. So other things that people can quite often sort of have challenges with is career. You might not feel confident enough to really go for that dream job, which means that your finances might suffer. Right? We already said like your relationship might suffer, your friendships might suffer. There's so many things that might suffer. But again, this comes back to the whole idea that this isolation, this hiding, this feeling ashamed, this is all survivable. Okay? It's all a really crappy place to be, but it is all survivable. But really asking that question, like, what are you missing out on in life by staying where you are right now? Because the first question is, what will you lose that you value, right? If you learn to love your body. And then, what are you missing out on in life? Oops, sorry. I was kicking my tripod. What are you missing out on in life by still having a really crappy body image? Because the whole idea is that to move ahead with confidence, to actively take steps in this direction. Sorry, I'm just checking on the time. Yeah. To actively take steps in this direction, you have to do it. You have to go slow. You have to go step by step, and you have to be clear. Okay? You have to be clear. And that means there's a lot of things in there, but really, like, who do you want to be? So when we ask, who are you without body image challenges, that kind of insinuates or assumes that in some way your body image, your negative body image, your challenging body image is part of your identity, right? In some way that is how you identify. You identify as a person who hates their body, or a person who doesn't like what they see, or, in some capacity that's part of your identity. Again, whether you have a label for it like I did or not. So really, who do you want to be? And that's a big question. Again, I would journal that out. And like, you can go as broad as you want with that. Like, go big. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to grow into? And how do you want to see yourself? So right now, if you see yourself as the woman who is overweight, has a big tummy, has flabby arms, and who never goes to the beach and never wants to be seen in a swimsuit, well, do you still want to be that woman? Chances are, if you're here, you don't. So who do you want to be? How do you want to see yourself? What are those, like, if you're a journaler, you might have all these sentences, or it might just be point form. Give me a word. Confident, right? Decisive, happy, joyful. Really, who do you want to be? How do you want to identify yourself? Because it's really good to recognize that where you are right now is not where you want to be, right? Where you are right now with your body image is not where you want to stay. However, when you're looking at actually stepping into kind of you 2.0, as one of my coaches calls it, you really need to kind of get clear on, like, what do you want? Like, where do you want to step into? How do you want that to work? So really kind of what we're doing is going from where you are right now. We're trying to figure out where you want to get to. And I would again ask the question, is there any part of you that objects to having this? Now, this is similar to the first question, but it's not, okay? It's quite different. Is there any part of you that objects to being confident? Is there any part of you that objects to feeling really awesome about your body? Is there any part of you that objects to not taking part in diet culture and not taking part in, bringing yourself down? Again, chances are there is a part of you, and it's really important to look at that part, address that part, and ask that question and figure out, like, again, what are you going to lose if you do that? What is the danger in that? Because really what we want to do is we want to be able to describe who you want to be, who you want to grow into, without talking about your body. Okay, so who are you without body image challenges? Well, chances are you're probably a woman or a man. You're a woman, maybe you're a sister, a friend, a coworker, an entrepreneur, a mother, a grandmother. You might be a hard worker. I know so many people who are hard workers. You might be, a kick-ass athlete. You might be a really compassionate dog lover. I just saw my dog, he's snapping over there. You might be kind and loving and vulnerable, and you might be that person that everybody runs to when they need help. And you might be the most giving, warm person. So who are you without body image challenges? Who are you without your body? Describe who you want to be without your body. Because the fact is, I always like to say this, because this is really how I identify. You are not a body. You are you, and you exist within your body. Okay? If we cut off both of your arms and both of your legs, you'd still be you. Your body would be drastically different. You'd still be you. If you shaved your head, if you no longer could see, if you lost some of your senses, you would still be you, because you are not your body. Your body is constantly morphing and changing and growing and shrinking, and you're going to be, you're going to develop cellulite and wrinkles and freckles and red marks and pimples. And we are going to, stretch marks. You're going to get bigger. You're going to get smaller. So your body is going to change, but you are not your body. You are you. My body, I very strongly feel like I am not my body. I am Katie, and I exist within my body. And whatever your beliefs are, right? We all have our own spiritual, religious beliefs, but that's just mine. So my body is my home. She's where I reside. She is where my personality currently exists, right? All of my thoughts come from within her. All of my actions come from within her. I can express love through her, right? Hugs and kisses and smiles and laughter. So really seeing my body as not this thing to be looked at and torn apart, but as my home, really, as this thing to be taken care of and loved and respected, it really has changed that entire mindset. So who are you without talking about your body? Because we want to make sure that you are secure in you, regardless of what your body is, right? And really regardless of what your body image is. So what I would like to kind of finish with is asking, how can you step ahead today? So my job as a coach is not to always tell you what to do, because most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, we have the wisdom we need within us. It needs to be pulled out, okay? And I always really love to give the kind of analogy of, if you could improve by 1% every day, or even 1% every week, that's tiny, tiny steps, but over time, it can make a massive impact. So if you committed to improving your body image by 1% every week for a year, you'd be 52% better. If you committed to improving by 1% every day, in a year, you'd be 365% better. Okay, so we're not trying to go from here to perfect. We're trying to go from 1% to 2%, and then 2% to 3%. So my question for you really is, what do you need to do today to take that 1% step forward, to get that 1% improvement? And that might look like journaling on the questions that I've asked you. Okay, it might look like really kind of contemplating who you are. It may look like starting a gratitude practice and expressing gratitude every single day for your body. It can look like so many different things. It may look like reaching out and asking me some more questions, okay? If something was not addressed on here that you really want to talk about. So it can look like a lot of different things. If you do want to talk, I'm going to see if I can do it right now. So I have my laptop beside me. Let's see if it'll let me do it. Yes, it's very weird that I can see myself on my laptop while we're here. All right, there's a link in the comments. If you want to talk, if you want to chat, if you have questions, if you want to uncover more of this, if you really feel like today was your 1% improvement, and you don't know what your next 1% improvement is, let's talk about it. Let's chat. Because it's really important to get underneath this. I mean, this is really what I do with my clients all the time, with my private one-on-one coaching clients, is getting underneath, right? Especially when we're talking about mindset. You need to get underneath, dig underneath those layers and really see what's there. It can make a world of difference to do that. So what is your 1% improvement? Let me know down below, or if you're not sure, click on that link and let's talk, and we'll figure out what your next 1% is. Okay, thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Again, if you have any questions or any comments, even if you're on the replay, pop them down below. I will be sure to jump on and answer them. All right, so thank you guys for watching. I'll be seeing you all very, very soon.